Hello and welcome to Politics War Room with James Carville, and I'm Al Hunt. This week, our guest is Paul Goldberger, one of the great architectural critics of America. Remember, we love taking your questions, so write to politicswarroom@gmail.com for next week's show. Now, we're going to get to as many as we can, but don't forget to tell us where you're from. You can also get text updates about what's next for Politicon and Politics War Room by signing up at Politicon.com. Tell your friends about us and remind them to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please check out the links to our sponsors, Quince and Green Chef, in our episode show notes. We thank you for supporting these sponsors because it really helps make this podcast happen. Hey, James, the White House believes that Americans are going to rally behind Trump as a global statesman. He claims he's resolved 9, 10 wars, whatever. I soon expect him to claim credit for ending the Peloponnesian Wars. But let's look at the Associated Press poll out last week. Voters gave him credit for his role in the Gaza truce. There's still a way to go, but he does deserve credit. However, his approval was miserable, 37%. Now, that may be a little low, but Reuters has him at 42%. Why? Voters want to know, why haven't you kept your promise to address the cost of living? He claims he's beaten inflation. Tell that to a bus driver in Newport News. In the government shutdown, this key issue is Trump has refused to extend the Obamacare subsidies, which if they're not extended, they expire at the end of the year. It's going to cost working class Americans thousands of dollars. He wants to give $20, maybe $40 billion to Argentina because he likes the guy. That's his buddy, the president down there, and he's in political trouble. And why bail out La Plata, Argentina, and not help La Plata, Maryland? And now you folks out there aren't going to believe this. So just listen carefully. He's asking the Justice Department to give him, Trump, as much as $230 million for the pain and suffering he endured in federal investigations. The Mueller probe, which, by the way, clearly established the Russians tried to help Trump in 2016. He knew it. And then the raid on Mar-a-Lago to get classified documents he had illicitly taken after Trump 0.10. His attorney general, his own attorney general, Bill Barr, said this should have been a slam dunk case. And finally, the January 6th insurrection, which you saw with your own eyes and which Trump incited. But he wants the government, the taxpayers, that's you, to give him $230 million. And James, with the Justice Department stacked with his cronies, he may just get the money, but it'll be a bigger gift to Democratic candidates.
Well, okay, let's take some things in order here. The first is the AP, University of Chicago poll has it at 37. Also, the American Research Group poll, which is I've been around for a while, they have them at 37.
Yeah.
All right, somebody's 42. I was cautioning our listeners, look at that polling average and kind of pick out the better polls. Do a little bit like they do in the Olympics when they score, throw the high score out and the low score out, and then average the rest of them. You're going to be so accurate, only so accurate, but they're he's not getting away with it. People have caught on to it. That we know. Let's just, and it's going to get worse for him. That's just a fact, okay? Everybody is catching up. That 7 million people showing up, that wasn't bullshit. That's 7 million people. I mean, I don't know how they count, but it was a lot.
Right.
I didn't know this. Paul Goldberger told me Barbara Comstock was at the No Kings rally.
Well, yeah, I would expect that. She's turned into a great anti-Trumper.
Yeah, we ought to get her on the goddamn show.
Yeah.
Jeez, man. But at any rate, people, and there is, and I want to put this on watch, Trump's Republican number is starting to deteriorate. Now, we're out in somebody, but I don't think he would mind. A friend of ours who's very knowledgeable about Indiana, very knowledgeable journalist, pointed out that the Indiana Republican Senate is not going along with redistricting.
They just announced that they didn't have the votes.
They have a vote. This is how things deteriorate. Okay, they start As you take one brick out and then the edifice gets weaker, you're going to start seeing that.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have a stampede after Tuesday's election coming up in 2 weeks in Virginia and New Jersey. I think and what happens is one cow. We used to raise cattle when I was a kid, so we used to kind of round them up. I had some experience at this. One gets away, and you try to get them back in. 3 get away, and you got a problem.
You got a real problem.
Yeah, you had a real problem.
Even the dog can't get them back.
That's correct. That's exactly, and that number is starting to shake. They're getting shook, and we just and we caught because we can't do anything. We stuck in the election cycle. And if you're listening, Mike Sherrill's campaign, the most fruitful place that you can do it. I know New Jersey, and what you want is your candidate on his heels, on the defensive, the last 2 weeks. And I highly suspect that there's a relationship between Schiaparelli and this Paul Ingressa guy, and all of these Republicans, these New York State Republicans that are on these just horrific, the most horrific anti-Semitic and racist shit that you can imagine. Shit we wouldn't even repeat on here. But get all of those people and scrub these finance reports, scrub everything, and I can't tell you for certainty that you're going to hit oil, but I'm going to tell you the geology in this thing looks good. And stay pull an all-nighter at your Trenton headquarters or wherever you are, and you're going to find something. And you can put this guy on his heels, which is where you want him, in the close of this election. And check it out and check it closely. Do your research, leak like a sieve, do everything that you can to see. But I would not be surprised at all if there's some connectivity between these two, and bring it up and use it and hit them hard.
And James, by the way, Paul Ingrassia nomination was pulled for the special counsel role, but he's still at the White House. They're the neo-Nazis have their places in this administration. It's part of it, So it's not like he's gone. He is just one of, I suspect, more than a few.
You gotta read his actual words. Yeah. Sometimes it becomes antiseptic. Well, you say, well, they want this kind of racist, anti-Semitic chat. Right. It's so much worse than you think. You can't imagine. Literally, it's hard to believe that people, and a lot of people that are not like that in the United States, they're in the highest places you can be. And Trump is not remotely offended by this. All right? Not remotely.
Well, he had dinner a couple of years ago with, one of the worst Holocaust deniers and anti-Semites, imaginable. So, of course, he's not offended. James, I'm going to bring up one more thing. Following the predictable playbook of authoritarian regimes from the Soviet Union, Italy, and Germany a century ago to Budapest in this century, this administration is moving to control higher education. In what is nothing but an extortion racket, the Trump administration is telling universities, go along with these policies on admissions, teaching, speech, tuition, and you'll get more federal money. If you don't, you'll get less. In other words, basically, grants have nothing to do with merit. They had to do with whether you obey us. It was crafted by Mark Rowan, a rich private equity executive who I believe has done real damage at his alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania, and it would be enforced by the blatantly partisan Trump Justice Department. So far, universities like MIT have rejected this shakedown, saying grants should be based on merit. Some conservatives have said it clearly violates constitutionally protected speech and academic freedom, but this really is out of the playbook. And while there may be legitimate criticisms of universities, there are on affordability and diversity, Trump control of American higher education sure as hell isn't the answer.
So did I read this right? That the University of Virginia acquiesced in this shit?
I don't think so. I think what they said, there's a separate issue with them. They originally said they rejected the compact. And I maybe something happened this morning.
I want to reserve comment till next week.
Okay.
Okay, because I want to be absolutely sure that I have this factually right, and I'm not. I thought I read something that they were bending a knee.
Well, I read a headline too, and then I looked, and it appears like it was another issue, but no, they may have because
Right. We will discuss this and be sure.
we'll
If
come
you
up.
did, Charlottesville, you got a problem.
Yeah. Well,
You got
so I'll tell you what, Vanderbilt hasn't answered yet. They're one of the 9. University of Texas and Vanderbilt are the 2 that haven't answered. But you know
I would give Texas slightly more leeway than Vanderbilt because they are somewhat on the public sugar tier a little bit. I wouldn't give Vanderbilt and I wouldn't give UVA an ounce of leeway.
Well, I would not, but I wouldn't give Texas either.
I
This
wouldn't.
is
I said
yeah,
a modicum. I don't mean very much.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and understand their board is appointed. There's nothing but Republicans on that board because they have nothing but Republican governors. So I don't have any Virginia, Vanderbilt, nothing.
Right.
I mean, some people it's just the politics of the time. But all of the people that bent a knee to this, I think history is going to really, really judge them.
You know, and
I
I understand what you're saying, and I even identify with someone about Texas. That's a great state university. If they bow to this, they will no longer be a great state university. Pure and simple.
Right. They're going to hurt themselves.
Yes.
It is short-sighted, and people are not going to forget. You know what we do with collaborators,
Right.
and I think these corporations. My fantasy dream is that this nightmare ends in 2029, and I think we ought to have radical thing. I think they all ought to have their heads shaven. They should be put in orange pajamas, and it should be marched down Pennsylvania Avenue, and the public should be invited to spit on them. The universities, the corporations, the law firms, all of these collaborators should be shaved, pajamaed, and spit on.
Disney and Paramount. No, I don't disagree.
Some people have contracts. I mean, I don't know about Lockheed or something like that. Okay, a little bit, but the people that unnecessarily bent a knee to this guy, no way, no way. And the idea is you have to pay more because you did this, because it is the only way that you're going to discourage future collaborators in the United States.
Yeah, because James, as we know, one thing we know about a bully, if you give in to a bully, that's not it. That's not the end of it. The bully doesn't say, okay, fine, it's all. Bully comes back for more. Absolutely. And he will always come back for more. And those law firms, if they think they've seen the end of this, they're crazy. They have not.
It's a moral judgment.
Yeah.
If you bend a knee to a criminal tyrant, and that's what he is. Understand, he is a criminal. 34 convictions would have been a lot more, okay, if they would have pursued it. He is a tyrant. He has no use for democracy. He has no use for the values of his country. And you are collaborating with this, and it will bring eternal shame to your company.
Yeah, and let me give just an example so people understand this, because they try to dress it up in what really is bullshit. One of the provisions says that any place will be censored and probably lose money if anyone, faculty, students, or anyone basically supports a group that has been designated a terrorist organization by the U.S. government. So that means I am a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, and we're having a class on politics. And I said, I think a lot of this Antifa stuff is really exaggerated. They're not really much of a threat. It's a bunch of, radicals who make some noise and every now and then some trouble. But compared to the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, they are, really no threat at all. That's the kind of thing that would lose that university money. That, as Robert George, a very conservative Princeton professor, said, absolutely is a violation of constitutionally protected speech.
First of all, I don't know what the fuck Antifa is. Why can I want to punch the president of Antifa? Give me his address. Where do I find this son of a bitch?
Well, where's the headquarters?
Where is it?
Where's the headquarters, James?
Yeah, where's the headquarters? Who is the board of directors? Who are those? There is no such thing as Antifa. It's like attacking vapor. Right? There is no Antifa. So I'm defending air. It's the same thing, or attacking air. I mean, what? I mean,
That's not Antifa,
no,
James.
that's not. I forgot to turn it off. That's one thing. When my phone rings, it's me. But yeah, I'm serious. We just keep, and they loop into this, and they keep repeating it, and it doesn't exist. There is no such thing as Antifa. It's not an organization. There's nothing. There is such a thing as the Communist Party USA.
And the Proud Boys.
Yeah,
And
there's a Proud Boys.
The Oath Keepers.
Absolutely. The American Nazi Party.
Yeah, yep.
It exists.
Even the Ku Klux Klan still exists.
Yeah. But we always do. I think this stuff, I'm serious. I know. I think this thing is starting to unravel. And when they start to unravel, they unravel quickly. And, I spoke last night, Albert, to a group of Virginia Democrats to raise money for the state house. By the way, the House majority leader in Virginia is one impressive son of a bitch. I got to tell you, man.
Ron Scott.
There's so many impressive Democrats out there. You can't imagine. Yeah. But whatever, and I believe this, and I told him, I says, I'm not looking to win. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in what I call a John Hancock election. That it's unmistakable that you can read these results without your spectacles. We're going big. We're going big, and I think we're going to win big. And I think if the Cheryl gets a good close, I think she can surprise people on the margins in New Jersey. I'm not into the, oh my God, woe be me. Maybe I'll be disappointed, but I don't think I will.
No, I feel good about her race too. I feel good about all the Virginia races, including the state legislature. How about the attorney general race, though? That's a tough one down there in Virginia. That guy really created problems for himself.
How much? The philosophical discussion is: if Spanberger wins by double digits, can this guy lose?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he was kind of really, really stupid. He was texting with a Republican female legislator, and he put this stuff. I don't know. We shouldn't. The guy made one mistake. It was a big one. Okay, we always feel like we got to mention it. He said it. He apologized. I think it was really bad. I don't think he told Spanberger, and I think that's bad. I think his real sin is he knew this was out there, and he didn't level with people.
That's right.
That's bad.
And the Republicans knew it was out there, and they waited. They did it shrewdly.
Right. Everybody, he knew it was out there. They knew it was out there. His big error is not saying something trying to impress some female on a text chain. The big mistake was he would have been much better off if he'd have gotten ahead of it.
Right.
And if he was sitting there with Spanberger and I've been chastised, I told our gubernatorial candidate it was just a dumb thing. I was trying to impress this female, and it was a failed effort. It would have diminished this thing by 50%.
Sure, but these guys always think they're not going to get caught. They live in a make-believe world, and I hope
to be learned here. And always the hardest research you always have to do on your own candidates.
Right.
That's it. They don't do it because they're scared what you're going to find.
Yeah.
You look too hard, you might find something out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, there's real lessons to be learned from this episode. But I going to be hard. It's going to hurt him. He's going to definitely run behind her. But at some point, I think of people tell me that just political physics of gravity will take over.
Well, a lot of people have already voted too. People voted before this came out, so we'll see.
I think the Oppo research is being done by the Democrats.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think they want this guy. I think that they've had experience where you have these too good to be true candidates that turn out to be too good to be true. And I think that they made a decision that they want to go with a known quantity here. And I'm not telling you whether it's the right decision or wrong decision, but I think that's a decision that's been made.
I have great problems with her age, but I think it's the right decision. And I'll tell you what else, James. I just talked to a couple of, I don't know what Paul says. This guy in Texas is for real.
I talked to him on the phone.
Yeah.
Now, I got to tell you, he struck me after a 15-minute telephone conversation. It is really something. And
He is in the poll, at least one or two polls. He's just blown by Colin.
right. I think they're going to have a hard time containing him.
Yeah.
Because I think that they're looking for something different. You can't stop people from hoping,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's it's a great movie. That how many have you ever seen the going flicking and the Shawshank Redemption has 15 minutes to go? Have you ever turned it off? No one has ever turned the ending of that movie off.
No.
And hope is a wonderful thing, and it's the same thing. And with some, if what I'm starting to see continues, and there has been a deterioration, I repeat, there has been a deterioration. If this continues, watch out.
Okay, James, we are in our full fashion mode. How perfect is the stylish and affordable clothing at Quince?
It's amazing if you took how much money you spent on clothes. Probably me a little bit less than most people, but if you bought this stuff, there's a thing called consumption equality, where 50 years ago, if you bought expensive, kind of Brooks Brothers clothes, or you bought something, off the rack at a discount clothing, it was a
Right.
really noticeable difference. There's not anymore. This place is exhibit number one in consumption equality. Really is.
Yeah. Oh, it is. And as we head into the cool of autumn, Quince is where you want to turn for fall essentials that actually get the job done. They're warm, durable, and built to last. Now, it's true, Quince delivers every time with wardrobe staples that'll carry you through the season. We guarantee you'll want to keep wearing everything again and again. Imagine how good you'll look and feel in classics like 100% Mongolian cashmere for just $60. Classic fit denim and real leather and wool outerwear that looks sharp and holds up no matter what you get yourself into. Right now, courtesy of Dan Max, I have my eye on a suede trucker jacket. It's perfect for layering and gives you a look that's casual but makes a big impact with how well it looks put together. Now, the dark chestnut one is probably the big winner. Best of all, there's no elevated price tag, and everything we've seen from Quince has been top tier. But you might be wondering, okay, how do they do it? How can you talk about this quality and these prices? It's actually simple. They partner directly with ethical factories and top artisans while skipping the middlemen to deliver premium quality at half the cost of similar brands. Now, the fits are perfect, the fabrics are incredible, and the style is unmatched. James can't wait to get some new activewear for the colder weather, but as good as James will look in his new gear, my Quince favorite may be their luxurious stretch wool dress pants. Dan can tell me if I can wear it with my suede trucker jacket. They feel amazing. They are perfect for getting things done on the hill or just reading in a recliner in style. Don't wait. Layer up this fall with pieces that feel as good as they look. Go to quince.com/war room for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too, by the way. That's QUINCE.com/war room for free shipping and 365-day returns. Again, quince.com/war room. The link is in our show notes. Hey, James, our guest is Paul Goldberger, a contributing editor to Vanity Fair, former architectural columnist for The New Yorker, widely considered the most knowledgeable and influential architecture critic in America. Couldn't be a better week to have him on.
Well,
Paul, we are honored to have you on. But for years, you have not been a fan of Donald Trump's building. You once called them gaudy and banal. In his second term, he's much more into building and changing the landscape of Washington. What's your general assessment of what he's doing and how it's going to change the look of this town?
well, he's already begun to change it a lot. I hope it's not permanent. We thought for a little while it was just going to be the inside of the White House. Then all this other stuff started happening. I think he really wants to make Washington something. He wants to make Washington an imperial capital, which, in the fact, the whole idea was that it was not that it was a very different kind of place, that it was a simpler town with a kind of understatement to it. And understatement is not a word he particularly understands.
Oh, that's for sure. I was devastated with those pictures of the construction tearing down the facade of the East Front. I confess, I love the White House building, having nothing to do with the occupant in it. The question, one of the first questions you ask, we'll get to the architecture in a minute. Why in the hell do we need a huge ballroom in the White House?
Well, you might want to rent it out for weddings and bar mitzvahs. I don't know, or Republican fundraisers. We don't. We've done fine without one. I've been at dinners under the big tent in the back of the White House. It's fine. Also, Washington has, there's that great hall in the National Building Museum where they've sometimes had inaugural, which is actually one of the greatest rooms for a party anywhere in the United States. And it's a few blocks from the White House. So there's a lot of options in Washington. I remember once going to a dinner when Clinton was president that was in the Benjamin Franklin rooms at the State Department, because it was winter. They couldn't really do a tent comfortably, and they wanted more people than could fit in the dining room. And it was great. It was fine. And it felt as every bit as presidential as anything else would be. We don't need it.
And they keep, the White House has put out all this stuff. Well, presidents have changed things from Teddy Roosevelt through Jacqueline Kennedy. But I don't ever, obviously they built the West Wing at one point. But, for 100 years, I've never seen destruction like this for such a dubious purpose. And it just looks awful.
It looks awful. I mean, it's not, it's not a good, not good visuals. This sort of thing. That's a big part of the problem, I think. But also, we've never done anything on this scale. Everything else we've done has also been with complete approval of consulting agencies. And Washington's a city where you generally, I've been involved as an advisor on a couple of memorial and monument projects over the years here. Well, it's a more complicated approvals procedure than you have in New York or other places. So the idea that you can just go right in and do this on the most historic building in the country is a little crazy. The Republicans have also been complaining a lot or trying to make comparisons, I should say, between this and Truman gutting the whole White House. But Truman gutting the whole White House was not a unilateral decision by the president who woke up one morning and said, I feel like gutting the White House. It was because the building was falling apart. Margaret Truman's piano famously fell down from the second floor and started breaking into the first floor because the ceiling was collapsing. The building was at that point really old. It had ancient mechanical systems. It was in desperate need of reconstruction and renovation. So that was completely different. And also every single inch of that was not destroyed, but was saved, marked. What could be put back was put back. What wasn't became a historical artifact. It was done in a completely different way.
And nobody called it gaudy and banal, as they're going
to call it gaudy and banal. That's true.
Paul, one more. Go ahead.
No, I just think gaudy and banal now seem, in light of what's going on now, to be kind of maybe a little too judicious, actually.
Let me ask you one more before turning to James.
Sure.
The Arc de Trump. the planned arc over the Memorial Bridge. Talk
Mhm.
about that.
Well, all we've seen are a few little things. Uh, Looks a little weird and scary and imperial to me. I mean, again, it doesn't look. First, it's going to actually destroy the view of Arlington Cemetery from the Lincoln Memorial
Which
and
is a
from the
beautiful view.
which is a beautiful view. And in fact, the openness of it was a key point. We could have put something there ages ago. Could have put a million things there. In fact, the open space was part of the idea there, and the beauty. And in fact, also when you go up to JFK's grave in Arlington, where that view was across Washington, this will now be in the foreground. You'll see this arch before you see the Lincoln Memorial. So that somehow, I have a feeling that the ghost of John F. Kennedy would not be thrilled by that.
Well, my wife drives over the Memorial Bridge every day because she works over at WETA in Arlington, and she's often said that she wants to be buried or have her ashes or whatever because she so loves that view. It's an inspirational view, and he's going to wreck
It's
it.
it's actually one of the, if not the classic view of Washington.
Yeah.
And to sort of plump this thing in the middle that looks like, just a bad imitation of something that some emperor did 200 years ago is a little crazy, seems to me.
James.
Thank you, first of all, very honored to have you. Tell you and Al, the views of dead soldiers and graves is just a downer when you come to Washington. Why do you want to see Arlington?
Well, you don't really. What you see is the beautiful hill, and you see the mansion, the old Custis Lee mansion up high with the columns, and you sense a kind of rolling hill, and then you see the graves collectively.
Right.
And so it does remind you that people have died for this. In a way, it's like,
You like wounded soldiers. Why would he like dead soldiers?
That's true.
I like caption.
So the mystery is not why he would want this. That's all pretty clear. The mystery is why other people allow it to happen and let him get away with it. That's the mystery.
Well, so let's fast forward. It's November the 17th, 2028.
Okay.
You get a call, and the president-elect wants to see you in the transition office at 2:00 in the afternoon. You get on a train or a plane or whatever. You go down, and they usher you in, and the president-elect says, Mr. Goldberger, I'm really busy. I want you to come back in 2 weeks and give me a plan what to do about this abomination of something that he's built.
Right.
And I would like to restore Republican values to which is manifest itself traditionally in Washington architecture.
Yeah.
How would you go about this task? So
Okay.
you got 2 weeks later, and you said, "What the hell I do? You got unlimited budget. I want to know what to do. What do you do?"
We're talking about Republican with a small r now, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good.
Oh, Republican.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Well, I think you do different things in different cases. I think if the ballroom really is built as it appears like it's going to be,
It will be.
Yep. Well, then I kind of really do think that demolishing it is probably the right idea, because it's really is. It's very destructive of what the White House stands for. It destroys, and it just, sadly, it looks tacky, badly designed, and it's destroying not just the symmetry of the White House, but the fundamental modesty that is inherent in democratic architecture, I think, which is not supposed to be about
Republican
overwhelming
value.
You're right, exactly. So that one, I think you kind of restore the White House to something closer to what it was. The arch, I don't know. I got to wait till if it really does go ahead also. Let's see how bad it is. Let's see how damaging it is. And I suppose it could be tweaked a little bit and maybe renamed as something else. I don't know. I mean, look, the idea of doing something to commemorate the 250th anniversary is not a terrible idea. I just think we could be doing something else.
I'm hardly an architecture critic, but one of the things that there's a certain permanence to architecture. Okay, building like that.
Sure.
You can change shit around.
Yep.
I think that we should have we should retain something. Maybe it's that to remind people of what happened in this country. I don't think we want to erase the legacy of Donald Trump. I think that would be a terrible mistake. I think children and people from around the country, when they come to Washington in the year 2041,
Right.
there should be some architecture to remind us of how we lost our way.
I agree. I think that's actually really right and really perceptive. And I think that's why I'm not sure if both of these projects go ahead as it looks like they will, I would take down the arch necessarily. I think restoring the White House, maybe, but you're absolutely right. Look, it's the reason that it was never a good idea, and thankfully it didn't happen, to rebuild the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center as they'd been. You want some record of what happened. You want some record of some loss. And I agree, because look, architecture tells a story. It's not just about keeping us out of the rain. It also, it tells a story, and it's a way that generations speak to each other, really. And so you're totally right. We need some reminder, and you put it exactly right, of how we lost our way. Unfortunately, we've got to find our way before we're ready to remember how we lost our way. but yes,
good point, Paul.
You're totally right. And you know, so yeah.
I just, as a man of editorial history, I never believe in denying history. I mean, I think some of the best stuff I've seen is in Berlin. I think the monument to the 6 million slain Jews, I said, this is never going to work. When I went there, it actually worked pretty goddamn good.
Yeah, totally right. You are totally right. Yeah, and in fact, look, part of the problem we're dealing with right now is the attempt to deny history of this administration right now. They're running around trying to deny history, and it doesn't work. And it ultimately is, history is going to come back and bite you in the ass anyway, one way or another. So, and you have a better chance of moving forward if you understand it. The idea that we're not willing to teach kids anymore about the evils of slavery is just it's beyond offensive.
I'm going to turn it back now. I have a quick question to us.
Yeah, sure.
I've lived here. I spent a lot of time here. What's your favorite building in Washington? Is it one that just kind of linger in front of it? Damn, they did a good job on that.
That's a great question. Oh shit, there's actually a lot of them. Although I will also say sometimes my favorite thing to do in Washington is just wander around Georgetown, just the totality of it, and walk around the streets more than any individual building. I love the National Gallery, both the new and the old parts, but the old part more, probably. The White House, of course, that's another reason I feel so upset to see it. It's not to see it so damaged by something that is, it's like putting an ocean liner next to a beautiful little sailboat. I mean, there's just no connection between the two at all, between what's being talked about now.
Well, my friend Charles Guggenheim did a documentary on the East Wing of the National Gallery.
Yes.
I said, my initial thing, I don't like this. What are they fucking with? They bring in, it actually, it kind of worked.
That's kind of work. Yeah. No, he's a great filmmaker, actually. Yeah.
I want to, I took my kids down to all the various museums in the mall. I love the Vietnam Memorial. I just think it works. And I must say, one of my great disappointments, because my dad fought in World War II, was going to the World War II Memorial. For some reason, my non-architectural expert eyes, that just doesn't work. Now tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Your non-architectural expert eyes are more expert than a lot of other people's, because you're totally right. It doesn't work. And it has some of the problems that we're talking about with all the stuff that the administration is trying to do now. It's pompous. It's pompous and kind of banal at the same time. It doesn't have many ideas behind it. It's just all about a kind of puffed up classical stuff. And the Vietnam Memorial is much more powerful by far. I mean, you go it kind of tears your heart away. and there's nothing about the World War II memorial that does that. It kind of there's something about it that's just as if it's almost timid in a
Right.
weird way. I mean,
I
the boldness that this country represented, the power, I mean, the way. I mean, this is what's so heartbreaking about right now. After that war, the whole world thought we were the hope of the world. That's why why there was no question about whether the UN had to go in this country. I mean, we
right.
were the hope of the world. We were where it was all going to. And now to watch that stuff unravel often, due to events of our own making, it's heartbreaking and profoundly upsetting. But you're totally right. And um, it's well-meaning but kind of dull, the World War II.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't stir your heart the way so much else about what we did in World War II does stir your heart. And
No,
it's
you're so right, Paul. I have never been to the Vietnam Memorial where I didn't see some veteran or some
yeah.
veteran's family down
Yes.
there getting really emotional.
Yes.
And I've never seen that. I've been to the World War II museum probably only 4
Sure.
or 5 times, but
Right.
it's hard to imagine that. Did you get involved in the controversy over the Eisenhower memorial?
A little bit, yes, because I was in the middle of writing a biography of Frank Gehry, who designed it.
Yeah.
And so I was somewhat involved, and I actually did a piece about it. And uh, that was one controversy where actually I think ultimately the public was pretty well served, because a lot of things about that memorial were changed in the design process. It got much better.
Mhm.
What was built is better than what he originally designed, thanks partly to the public, thanks partly to the Eisenhower family that ultimately came around when he made certain changes. Uh, and it's actually quite good. The problem with the Eisenhower Memorial isn't the design, it's that the site is too big and the whole thing feels a little kind of like you're wandering in a football field, and it
Yeah.
should have been a little tighter and denser, and it would have had more power. But it's still okay. And the answer was to make it better, which is pretty much what happened, not to throw it away for something that would have looked like a miniature of the World War II memorial.
Yeah.
You know,
Paul, do you know any of the architects involved in the Trump and the Trump
no,
design? Who are they?
I
Does
do not.
anybody know?
Well, the ballroom is done by a firm called McCreary, which is a Washington-based firm. They've been around for a few years. They like to do traditional classical architecture, and they're very involved in this thing called the National Civic Art Society, which is run by a guy named Justin Shubo, who's an obsessive promoter of classical architecture, and he became well known because he actually led the campaign against the Eisenhower Memorial, which ultimately failed. It was built, although, as I said, it was built in a better version, so that to some extent, the public airing was a good thing. And but I don't know their other work. This is look, there's nothing wrong with good traditional architecture. It's fine. But first, this isn't, I don't think, such a good piece of traditional architecture.
Yeah.
It's a kind of, it's a Marriott hotel piece of traditional architecture. It's not worthy of the White House. There's a different firm that's done the arch, though they are people I've never heard of before.
Well, it's not any. I mean, it's a GAUDY and BANAL.
Yeah, it's good even now. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. Everything does not have to be modern. You can do beautiful traditional things, but it's not. You don't just throw a bunch of classical columns on something and declare that your work is done. It's
Yeah.
actually a pretty complicated thing. Classical architecture it's a language. And in the same way that you can put words together in the English language and you can come out with Shakespeare if you're really good, or you can come out with bullshit. And so it's all about how skillful you are in arranging the words.
James.
Uh, I'll just make a comment about the Vietnam War. I'm a Vietnam era vet. I
Right.
served in the Marine Corps during Vietnam. I never went to Vietnam, thank God. I went one time and I'll never go back. The only time I would consider going back is if I live long enough and my grandson is kind of old enough that I can take him.
Right.
And I think it was really important that we got Vietnam right. And I'm not
Yes.
so concerned that we got World War II wrong. And not that there wasn't more consequential or there was very brave and intrepid people, but Vietnam, we need to
Yes.
be reminded of Vietnam.
Yes, we do. You're totally right.
I broke down and I said, I'm never going back. I don't
Yep.
need to. I would reconsider if my grandson gets to be
Right.
like 7 or 8.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
want to ask you, Charles Guggenheim, my
Yes.
friend that did that, he had a theory that when you have unlimited materials, the architecture is crappy. Where you have limited, where you're just working with wood, or you're just working with one thing. That's why he was very down on Los Angeles.
Ah.
They could do anything they wanted, and it's
Right. Well,
some
he's.
validity to that.
I think he's right. I wouldn't make it a question of materials. I would put it differently. I would say that ultimately you do better when you have some constraints. Okay, and the constraints can be materials, they can be function, they can be money, they can be time. But when nobody has ever done their best work, when a client says to them, spend whatever you want, do whatever you want, then you need architecture is basically solving a problem. So you need to know what the problem is and have the tools for it, and you don't throw every last thing at it. So yeah, I think he was right in his instinct when he said that. I just think it's actually a much bigger thing than just materials.
So this is something I've heard. I'm not an architectural critic, but I have had people tell me that Chicago is architecturally the best city in the United States. Would you agree?
Well, it's the most. Best is a funny word. It's
I
an
don't know which one.
it's an incredibly exciting and important city because it's where American modern architecture was kind of born in a way.
Right.
And that was a really important thing. I mean, after the Chicago fire, they really drove right in and used the latest technology, but also a huge amount of creativity. And the skyscraper kind of came out of that, and a whole lot of other stuff. And it has pretty much, even though they've done a lot of crap too over the years, they've
Right.
done a lot of really good stuff. And it got embedded into the culture. The most popular tourist attraction in Chicago is the architectural tour they do on the Chicago River on a boat.
Yeah.
And that's the only city in America where like the biggest thing to do is the architecture tour. So yeah, there's a kind of architectural culture there that's really good. So yeah, he's right. Yeah.
Same news. Before I let you go, I got to ask you, the pyramid at the Louvre. All right, I saw when it came first in Paris. I'm not gonna like this. Okay,
Right.
This is bullshit. This doesn't fit in. I'm gonna hate it.
Right.
And I looked at it for 5 minutes. And I kind of like it. It's real.
Well, you guys so far, you guys have been right on almost everything. So I'll stay with you. I agree with you. And actually, I made the same mistake you did. That was back when I was at the New York Times. I wrote a column when the design was announced, saying I thought it was a big mistake. Then it got built, and actually, it is good. IMP knew what he was doing in the end. He got the last laugh. And now it's a kind of almost a beloved landmark. I mean, that's another thing that's wrong with these classical people. They don't understand that a city's a heterogeneous, pluralistic mix of things. It's not one perfect thing where everything is the same. And it's like a society. And that's what makes cities actually interesting and alive. Just like what
I
makes
just remember
societies.
I knew I was gonna hate it, and I just kind of walked around and I said to myself, I don't know if I'm supposed to hate it.
I love that story because I love it for a couple of reasons. I mean, first, because you're right, but second, because it was the building itself the thing itself won you over. It wasn't that somebody argued with you or it said to you because of some principle you had to like it or some bullshit like that. You actually went there and the thing itself did it. And that's always the best thing, best way to like something. And so, but cities are a funny, complex mixture, and even Washington is
Well,
that and should be
I
that.
cannot thank you
Yeah.
enough. I have to get Al to close it out because
Okay.
I've run over the thing, but I hope I'll pass across again.
I hope so too. I've always admired everything you've been doing, and I I must be on probably some mailing list because I'm always getting highly personal emails from you asking me
mean every word of it.
to
He
give me some money.
Paul, he talks about you behind your back all the time. Hey, how great is saving money by getting fresh, healthy, easy to make meals delivered with Green Chef, James?
This stuff it's unbelievable. But the cost, the ease, the convenience. Let me add one important ingredient here: the taste. We have come over because we're older, and we still remember TV dinners. Okay, so we just associate any.
I lived on them for years when I was 22.
Yeah, we ate pork and beans out of a can,
Yeah.
or something like that. All right. One of the great revolutions in food industry has been the ability to do this pre-prepared meal stuff like this, and you're not missing much. Okay, the difference in quality between what you get here and what you get at a fine restaurant in New Orleans or Washington is not very much. I keep coming back to, what all this has done is just allow people to enjoy quality at 1/5 the price you would, maybe 1/10 for all I know, of the price you would pay. So you should take advantage of this at every junction. It's good for the whole family too. It's not that they don't have stuff that your children can eat or something like that. It's great.
Yeah, it really is. Between the crisp air and delicious flavors of autumn, it's the season of comfort food. It's also the perfect time to reset and kickstart healthy habits before you set your 2026 resolutions. Luckily, by choosing Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for clean eating, you can do just that. So we have to ask, is there a better time to get started with easy meals and great nutrition from Green Chef than right now? If you haven't heard, Green Chef makes it easy to spend less time in the kitchen and more time enjoying the fall. Yes, we're amazed that their new heat and eat meals are made so you can enjoy delicious, wholesome meals in just 3 minutes. Let me repeat that, just 3 minutes. It's perfect for supporting your wellness journey, and Green Chef recipes feature fresh, organic, seasonal produce with 100% responsibly sourced proteins to help you feel your best. Green Chef, real clean ingredients help you build lasting, healthy habits without the hassle. You can enjoy salads ready in just 5 minutes, protein-filled breakfasts, or nutrient-rich smoothies to fuel your day. No matter your goals, Green Chef is ready to nurture your nutritional needs with 80-plus dietitian-approved weekly meal options. Green Chef makes it easy to find meals that fit your lifestyle. You can pick from Mediterranean, gluten-free, plant-based, protein-heavy, and even gut and brain health or calorie-smart choices too. You'll love how the recipes change every week with week-to-week flexibility, so you can adjust your plan to match your mood and your schedule and get the variety you crave. After switching to Green Chef, we have a great excuse to prepare food for our friends and families. The risotto with squash, tomatoes, and shallot is so good, I'd head back to Europe if I couldn't get it delivered right to my door. So don't wait. Make this fall your healthiest yet with Green Chef. Head to greenchef.com/50warroom and use the code 50warroom to get 50% off your first month. Then 20% off for 2 months with free shipping. That's code 50warroom at greenchef.com/50warroom. Okay, James, now for the outrages of the week. When a criminal who has been out on bail or parole commits another crime, right-wingers invariably criticize prosecutors or judges as being anti-law and order, permissive people. Christopher Moynihan, an upstate New Yorker, has been arrested for threatening to assassinate House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. The linkage? Moynihan was one of the insurrectionists who broke into the Capitol January 6th, trying, at Donald Trump's behest, to overturn an election that Trump lost. He is also one of the January 6th criminals convicted, and along with all the others, he was pardoned by Donald Trump. James, when do you think we'll hear from our right-wing friends criticizing the law and order guy in the White House for being so damn permissive?
Well, I don't think they don't do that much anymore. Right? If they send in the stupid National Guard, I keep repeating, we know how to deal with this problem. When I look at some of, I use this to just expound on something that is very true. The decline in crime is a great American success story, and most of it is being led in Democratic cities by Democrats. There is no reason in the world that we should even begin to take a backseat on this issue. The idea that they're better on crime than Democrats was formed, over a period of time when there was some kind of idiotic, impractical positions that some Democrats were taking and stuck around a long time. That's no longer the case. And I think we got to be very, very aggressive on this issue. The other thing, because I'm talking about this earlier, this gives me a chance to expand on something. What should we do about the flirtation earlier in this decade and toward the end of the last decade? Some Democrats with identity politics. Clearly, that's not fashionable anymore. I think it's true. AOC has scrubbed her website. It was one of the most politically damaging things that I've seen in this century in politics. And the question is, should we just be satisfied with the fact that we won, that no one talks like this, or should we affirmatively point out to people that we reject the tenets of identity politics and the language of identity politics, and should we attack them? I am moving quickly in camp number 2. I think we got to point out just how I don't think these people were bad people, but just how idiotic politically this is, and there's still some outposts of identity politics in communications, and they need to be eradicated. Now, I no longer support the National Public Radio. I think it's one of the most destructive organizations to American progress that exists. I do.
Well, I disagree on that.
Yeah, well, they keep adhering to a toxic, idiotic ideology, and why should I pay for them to do that? But we're going to just disagree on that.
Well, the reason I'll tell you, James, because the place in western Alaska, which had this terrible, terrible weather, the only outlet they have, the only thing that people know out there's no newspapers out there, there's no digital news out there, is public radio. And that's true in a lot of places. You're not talking about Boston or New York or Washington. You're talking about little places like western Alaska that face an emergency.
Yeah, we'll have a fundraiser, okay? But the toxicity and the stupidity and the continued adherence to political idiocy cannot be justified because people in western Alaska need a weather report.
You can multiply that 100-fold. Little towns all over the country. Talk to your friend Andy Bashir about the importance of public radio in the state of Kentucky.
100,000 people can tell me, and I'll listen to it, and I like a lot of it, but they keep doing this crap.
Well, good. What you want to do is you want to criticize what you don't like, and not throw out the whole baby.
They've had enough. They've had enough time to redeem themselves. They're irredeemable.
Well, I guess a broken clock can be wrong twice a day. Anyway.
I guess, but you know what? When you're wrong, you don't need to. You just stop using that idiotic language, and they won't stop. But at any rate, that's just one of the things we're going to disagree on. So my outrage is this guy. I keep going back to Russell Vogt. And actually, you pronounce his last name most. I've always said Vogt, and I thought that's the way you pronounce it.
No, it's Vogt, right?
Yeah, and I read the New Yorker profile of him, and they generally don't get anything wrong. and they said he pronounces his name vote. This is one fucked up man. Okay. This is a guy that when before puberty, he was interested in tormenting people, according to Mike Lee, who's one of the great disgraces to his family name ever. I think his dad was a Republican Solicitor General, but was
a very good one.
Man. Yes, very good. He's a kind of friend of Reagan. And this guy wanted to torment people. And now it seems that Russell, the ethical paragon that he is, married a lady named Mary. Now, a story I think is going to be coming out in the next 48 hours that I will be discussing next week. And Mary, apparently, I want to just say that we're going to all this confirm. Her had a dalliance with a guy who was working for Ryan Walters, the nutty right-wing education secretary or whatever you call it in Oklahoma, who got run off because he had a meeting and there was porn on his computer, which is the only thing that ever made me like this guy. And it seems that Mary, I think her name was Mary Grace, because left Russell and went with this guy. And Trump at a meeting told the staff that we got to do something about getting Russell some pussy because it's not getting late. I'm serious. I'm not making it up. Okay, people, I am not making this up. That's what Trump said. So if anybody out, I'm not going to ask anybody to mercy fuck Russell vote. Okay, there's some things that we're just not going to do in this country. But, when most people were 12 years old, most males, and we're looking at this at our age, we were looking at like the underwear ads in the Sears and Roebuck catalog. This guy was dreaming about tormenting people. And Trump's trying to help him, man. You got to give Trump some credit. But if you take, I ain't a judge of what's a good-looking male or not, but I don't think any women will be knocking this dude's door down. I can tell you that. That's serious. That's what he said.
Oh my God. All right. Now for the questions from our really, really smart listeners, James. They really are. They rise to the occasion. They teach us sometimes as much as we answer them. First question I'm going to combine two. Joe in Westlake, Ohio, and Richard in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, my stomping grounds. Joe says, I attended the No Kings March in Cleveland, but I have to ask, what impact does 7 million people marching in opposition to the president have? And Richard says the turnout at No Kings rally was great, but how do we keep it going and turn it into action?
Everybody is like, okay, so what? Well, the first thing it was cathartic to 7 million people. That's something to be said. Like, people will sit at home and says, God damn it, I did something.
Right.
Secondly, we underestimated in 2010, in 2009, the Tea Party. And we said, oh, these were crazy. They were this or that. That actually was a forerunner to something. It had some predictive ability. These were the most orderly, well-behaved, patriotic, and you watch, of course, my contempt for Mike Johnson has, there's no depth to it. There's no bottom to it. And they say,
you like that lake down there.
Yes, the Chafalaya River that has no bottom.
The river, right.
Without a bottom. Mike Johnson has no moral, no ethical bottom. None. And he also has zero self-awareness of how big of a goddamn hypocrite he is. But be that as it may, they're going to find out, to their very surprise, that a lot of real Americans, I believe, have been energized, activated, that this is a manifestation of something that we're going to see carried through in New Jersey and Virginia. And I just got a text, an unpaid advisor, Republican nominee for governor of New Jersey, advocated a ban on same-sex marriage.
And he doesn't take any money from Jews.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's coming, folks. It is coming. It's coming big time. And for God's sakes, scrub Generally, keep him on the defensive, beat him bad, make him answer, make him responsible for what all these racist, goofy people that are supporting him are saying. Now, the story's on Politico. Unfortunately, I got blocked on my cell phone to read it, but look it up. Look it up as we talk it.
Yeah. No, I read it. You're right. It said well, apparently a top supporter of his said, I'm against same-sex marriage, and I don't take any money from Jews. But in any event,
Right.
next,
Make him return all the Jewish contributions here.
Well, it wasn't the candidate. It was his top aide.
It was a big unpaid advisor. Just do anything. Call on anything. Call him to drop out.
Yeah.
Just keep the microphone in his face. Hit him hard. Hit him.
Mike in Uncastville, Connecticut. I don't know Uncastville, Connecticut.
Right.
He says, why? This is a good question. This is a really good question. Why am I not hearing anything about the FBI investigation of Tom Homan, where they have him on video accepting a paper bag loaded with $50,000? Mike, you are absolutely, they are running away. They are ducking. They're afraid of this. This guy in September of 2024, on an undercover FBI sting operation, takes 50 grand, promising that if Trump's elected, he's going to get contracts for these people who he thought were bidding for contracts. They really were FBI sting agents. 50 grand, put it in a Casa Laundry grocery bag, and won't tell us what happened to it. And when you watch J.D. Vance on George Stephanopoulos' show or Pam Bondi before the Senate Judiciary Committee, they don't want to answer this. They keep saying, well, Tom wouldn't do anything wrong. Of course not. Tom, it's time to know. What did you do with the 50 grand? What did you get for it? Did you give it back? After all, it really was taxpayers' money. And if you didn't give it back, did you do anything for it? And did you declare it on your income tax return? This is something that should not go away. This guy is a big figure in this administration. And to me, he may seem like a thug, but he took a 50 grand, what looks like a bribe from the FBI agents, and we don't hear anything about it.
Is there a videotape?
Yeah, there is.
Okay. So, and this is something, very often you hear people say, people don't understand this. Okay. They got a campaign contribution and then they had this guy and somebody over assesses the value of a house to get a loan, and people have a hard time digesting it. This is the easiest thing in the world. Cash in a bag. You take the bag, you take the cash. It's on videotape. So what's going to happen when the Democrats take the House back? This is why these congressional elections are so important. And they have a congressional subpoena. Well, you're going to have to make the Supreme Court go through a lot of intellectual flip-flops or whatever they do. They'll probably do it. But, man, you got a bag, $50,000 of cash, and a high-ranking government official. Everybody understands that.
And an FBI.
And an FBI. Right. Understands that. And there's a videotape.
Right.
Out there. And we got to, in George did a good job. Every time they go on, if you don't ask them, why won't they release this? Make them fucking answer. All of them. Not just him, not just Pam Bondi. Make Marco Rubio answer it. Make everybody answer it. Where's the 50 grand? Where's the bag? Would you, if you were in the Senate, Secretary Rubio, would you subpoena this paper bag? Would you subpoena this video? We're just not fucking tough enough. Listen to me, New Jersey. Hit this son of a bitch hard. Everywhere you can hit him.
James, another good question from E, whatever E is. And he or she is from Kentuckiana. I assume that's the border of Kentucky and Indiana. But says, what strategy do you think can be used to clean up this clearly corrupt Supreme Court?
Well, this is what I believe. I believe that the Democrats, if they win in 2028, I don't think this should say anything. There's one way to clean it up, and that is you go from 9 to 13. That's it. Mm-hmm. Anything else, they're going to say, it's a separate branch of government. We're not subjected to. They already tell you they're not subjected to any ethical rules. They're played by entirely different. A third grader is held to a higher ethical standard than the Supreme Court justice. You're not going to change that, so just go to 13 when you get power. Bingo.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. It's terrible policy. There's all kinds of reasons that you shouldn't do it. And by the way, make Puerto Rico and D.C. a state. Add 4 senators. It's desperate times require desperate measures. Don't talk about it. Don't run on it. Run on it. Talk about how you're going to help them in a way that should really help the middle class. It's expand the Supreme Court and add. And don't have 50 states anymore. Have 52. It's not that much trouble to add a couple more stars to the flag.
Right. The next question comes from Dave in Fairfax, Virginia, who says, what are the swing states you think candidates in 2028 will be focused on? Will they be the same as 2024, or will we see states like Georgia finally go solidly blue? Dave, sometimes there can be, huge changes over a period of time. It was only 35 or 40 years ago that California and New Jersey were basically Republican states, and West Virginia and Arkansas were basically Democratic states. That obviously has switched. I don't see any big switch right now. Maybe you don't see it till it happens. Democrats say Texas will become a swing state. They've been saying that for 25 years and it hadn't happened. Maybe someday it'll happen. But I think it's going to be the same as you saw before, the blue wall, Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. And then Georgia will not be solidly blue, but it could be purple, and North Carolina and a couple of those states out west, Arizona and Nevada. Now, maybe 1 or 2. I think Iowa may be added to that list, but it basically is going to be the same as 2024.
I dissent. And as my authority from my dissent, I will quote Vladimir Lenin. Stop. God was a lot of things. He said, history goes decades with nothing happening. And then sometimes history goes weeks with decades happening. I think that can be true of politics, that political change sometimes happens on history's clock in a very, very short period of time. It's not an evolution. And to some extent, it's a revolution. And and remember, we're 1/8 of the way into this administration, and he's already at 37%. The image of the Democratic Party is in the toilet. It's at 31. If they start winning elections, and by the way, I think they have a golden issue on the shutdown. I think there's a golden issue with these subsidies. And one of the things is speaking to a bunch of people, and I did not realize what a difference these subsidies for health insurance make. I thought it was going to be like $175 a year. It's no such thing.
Thousands.
And it should be running ads now. Now is the time to start kicking the shit out of them. Don't wait till we get in an election cycle. It will raise all this soft money. There's Democratic money pouring in everywhere. Do an ad, put it online, ask these big people to fund it. Start now. Start pummeling them, saying this is what it's about. And this sort of both sides of bullshit that, well, it's just another example of Washington dysfunction. It's a he said, she said thing. No, it's not. The people have no money. They can't afford it. And they are going to do this to give rich people a tax cut. The public is engaged. And if I see one more goddamn chin scratcher on TV saying a pox on both of your houses, this just shows just how dysfunctional Washington has become. No, there's something that is really at stake here. And you got to drive it home. It's at stake.
So what new states will be added to the swing states block?
I guess it was Yogi said predictions are very hard to make, especially about the future. Think of states that have a lot of college people moving in and a lot of old white people dying off. Okay. I'll go with North Carolina, Georgia, and Texas.
Well, North Carolina and Georgia are there. I agree.
I'll go with the solidification, the continued march of blue toward. Arizona, and Georgia. But remember, we need an inspirational candidate. Great political changes are not by issues so much as they are by inspirational people.
Right.
And I think that we could have. I just was farting around last night with some friends of mine texting, and I said, "What percent do you think a Mitch Landrieu, Liz Cheney ticket would get in 2028?" A lot. And by the way, that's not the only combination out there that would really shake up American politics. We are in desperate times, people. We need to try different things. The same shit is not working. Be bold, think of different things, because there's going to be great opportunities coming from 2026 to 2028. I think there's great opportunities coming in less than 2 weeks in Virginia and New Jersey. Look
Okay.
what happened in New York City. Look how fast that came. Look how fast it turned around.
Yeah.
All right. Remember, change can come so fast. We're not accustomed to it. And I think it's coming. I hope it is. I'm praying for it.
Okay, let's get back to the present, because Annie in Minneapolis, Minnesota asked you, why are Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner negotiating the Israel-Gaza crisis? They're not in the government or the cabinet.
Yeah, thank you, man. I love you. Let me break it to you as gently as I can. It's all about money. Everything they do is about money. So obviously, Jared and Witkoff know how to get their cut to see that Trump gets his cut. This is all about the cut. And anything that happens over there, you have these countries that are sitting on, I don't know, God knows what of petrodollars. And this is all flowing in their pocketbooks. This is about, like, everything they do, at the bottom of it is greed, corruption, and money. That's who they are.
Yep.
And who better to do that than people whose whole life is about greed, corruption, and money? Remember, Jared was in a $2 billion deal to Saudis while his father-in-law was president.
Yeah.
By the way, you want to know what the dominant issue in 2028, I think, is going to be? It's always going to be the middle class. It's always going to be affordability crisis. It's always going to be democracy. Watch out the corruption issue, and just keep exposing this and expose it. And again, as I say, you go decades with nothing happening, and you go weeks with decades happening. And the $50,000 paper bag, people can understand that.
Yep.
Our, Middle East money, they understand.
Yeah. Okay.
Push.
Annie, I think you've been given your answer here. Douglas, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to ask your question, even though Douglas says he is not on any weird island. We have never had a question from a weird island. Those are great islands.
What is a weird island?
I don't know, but anyway, Douglas, you say, is there a Republican congressional representative in a vulnerable district the Democrats should focus on to get them to switch their vote on the Epstein petition? Douglas, let me tell you this. I think they got to make sure they hold all the people they have when they James's good friend, Mike Johnson, who's engaged in absolutely outrageous, despicable behavior and refusing to swear in a new member from Arizona, because that would force 218 votes. You'd have to bring the Epstein resolution to release everything to the floor. If they get that, I worry a little bit about Nancy Mace being pressured off. But if not, and it comes to a floor vote, you're going to get a lot more than 218. You're going to get a lot of these Republicans are going to be protecting themselves. It's just, it's they can, as Joe Lewis said, you can run, but you can't hide. And Mike Johnson's trying to hide. He ain't going to get away with it.
You make a good point. This is what I'd say. I know that by the way, like any good lawyer, they'll say, put off. Just any kind of delay. And there's a benefit. I've seen good lawyers. I've seen them around, and they believe in delay as much as they believe in anything. That's obviously what they're doing. Now, tell me how this ends satisfactorily for them. What is, if you're caught up in this, if you're a Republican House member, give me your most optimistic scenario for the conclusion of this. There is none.
Right.
There is. It's not going away. It's too easy for people to understand. the criminality is too inbred. The crime is too easy to understand. You know this. This Virginia Guilford, if I'm mispronouncing her name, I apologize. This book is really something.
It sure is.
And what they did, can you imagine if somebody did something like that to one of your daughters or your wife? I mean, what they were doing was just unfucking believable.
No.
And what kind of weirdo would get any satisfaction out of forcing themselves on a child? And Mike Johnson, okay, and this is why I'm going to tell you my hatred for him, and I know you shouldn't have that, and I understand that, but he's so dishonest. He's so duplicitous. He's so self-righteous. And he would be like appalled that he's doing it. He wants her family to be there for the swearing in. He just lies, and he does it like he thinks he's telling the fucking truth.
Yeah.
All right? I cannot. My contempt for him as a fellow human being, just there's nobody. This is a Chapelai River. I just can't. I can't. You know, some of these people don't bother me.
James, on next week's show, please tell us what you really think about some of these things, okay? Don in Avondale, Arizona, asked, what would happen if President Trump ignores or doesn't obey if, by any chance, he should get an unfavorable ruling from the Supreme Court?
On what issue?
Well, on any issue, if the court rules one way and Trump says, hey, I'm going to ignore it, I'm not going to obey it.
Well, the one thing you will know, when the Supreme Court rules against him, it will be because they think it is in the best interest of the Republican Party. You have to understand this about the Supreme Court. Whatever they say, you have to do, because they can lock your ass up, okay?
Right.
You do not need to respect them. You do not need to think that they legit. This Supreme Court does not look at the facts and try to apply the law the best they can in a different interpretation.
That's for sure.
They are a fully owned adjunct of the Republican Party. In anything that and if they ever rule against Trump, it is going to be because they thought it was in the interest of the Republican Party for them to rule against it. They'll never make a ruling based on judicial interpretation or stare decisis or statutory construction or tradition or anything else. They are a nakedly political operation. You should look at them as such, but you have to, when they say something, these sons of bitches will lock you up if you go against it.
Well, there's precedent for what you say, James. They voted against Trump after the 2020 election. That's because they thought Trump was yesterday. He was gone. The interests of the Republican Party were with others. They've changed their tune once they found out he wasn't yesterday.
If they determine that it's in the interest of the Republican Party to rule against him, they're not in the Trump's hip pocket. They're in the Republican Party's hip pocket.
Yeah. All right, listen. We love these questions. I'm even letting who was it? I let somebody by who just said that they were from Kentuckiana, but and someone from not on any weird island. But keep them coming.
We'll just say some Evansville.
Yeah, keep them coming because we love your questions. If we didn't get to them this week, we'll try to get to them next week.
There's some Orangeburg,
right?
Davies County. There's some Davies County, Kentucky.
Hey, thanks for listening to Politics War Room with James Carville, and I'm Al Hunt. As always, send your questions for us by email to politicswarroom@gmail.com or tweet them for next week's show at Politicon. Following this episode, we'd appreciate it if you check out the links to our sponsors, Quince and Green Chef, in our episode show notes. We thank you for supporting them because when you do, you help make this podcast happen. Now, to keep up with us, subscribe to Politics War Room on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And check out our Substack at politicswarroom.com. James and I are constantly adding new content, so go and take a look. You also can find other shows you might enjoy on the Politicon YouTube channel or when you search Politicon on your favorite podcast sites. Now remember, please rate the show with a 5-star review. We'll be back next week with another show as we continue our war room planning.